All right, we are back. Episode 48, 49, I believe. Well, we were just having a ramble off air about the economy. We always start with economics off air, property markets. Anyway, I thought we'd just chat about a couple of things that someone was asking me the other day on Twitter about speed and training for speed on the track, and remembering that I suppose we've both got track backgrounds, but I've moved into my slightly more endurance running. 3 times 1.5k intervals this morning, or 30 pace, getting better. Anyway, so guy that I met on Twitter some time ago, he's a sub 3 hour marathon runner, and he's doing a bit of track speed. I think he wants to run his first mile on the track, or 1500, and he was asking me the other day about some speed work on the track and whether he should wear spikes and all the usual stuff. And one of the things he came up with was potentially doing flying 30s. And I said to him, it's a recipe for disaster. And I said that even as track runners for a very long time, we would very rarely do flying 30s. And the 400 and 800 meter runners, I don't think Mike Lynch has ever done a flying 30 in his entire life. You would have done them at some point when you were a bit young. Yeah, you would never do them now. From memory, the only athlete I've ever given them to is Anthony, who was just a pure 60, 100 meter runner. So what's your take on flying 30s for non-sprinters?
Yeah, well, it's good. It's just a complete no. Just a lot of times there's when you get asked questions about track and any particular topic, the first answer you always say, well, it depends, because there are lots.
I love that answer. It depends. It's the best answer.
Yeah, because I had a girl the other day say to me, Chris, how much gym is enough for me to become the best possible athlete I can be? And my answer was, well, it depends. And it depends on lots of things and what type of athlete you are, what events you're targeting, what your physiology. There's lots of variables in. Even when we work it out, it will change constantly. It'll evolve as you evolve. So that's the answer. So when someone else comes to me and says, I'm a 1500 meter runner or a distance runner or any type of runner and says, I want to do speed. Well, speed for a distance runner is very, very different than it is for a sprinter. So if a distance runner tells me they're thinking about putting spikes on, my first question would be why? What are you trying to achieve? If your event is 1500 meters and you say to me, I want to do flying 30s, I need to somehow have you demonstrate to me joining that dot. How do you join flying 30s to 1500 meter running? And if you can do it and see the benefit minus the risk, tell me, because I don't know how to do that. I don't know what that means. And the risk far outweighs any reward you might get in terms of your event.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the challenging thing is for distance runners, they don't know where to start, and their view is that, how do I introduce some speed into my, I want to actually improve my track speed. I'm coming down from, we've got the reverse of a Mike. Oh no, we've got Mike Lynch basically. We've got Mike Lynch that's gone from running marathons and 10Ks in extremely good times, now down to running track. Mike went down to 200s. I don't think he ever ran 100, and fours. And how do we actually introduce track speed for an athlete like that? My first take or feedback to anyone would be, I would probably start with 60s. I think 60s are a distance where they allow you to roll into the 60, build some speed, nearly like a fast or progressive run through, build that speed up and then hold some speed. And as we well know, anything over 60, when you're trying to hold that speed for longer, even with 100, you're starting to decelerate.
Yeah,
and most people start to get very tight in the hamstrings. Once they start getting to the 100 meter mark, they start to tighten up. The other observation and feedback I gave this particular person was the one big difference about when you start running on the track. And I don't know that there's no real science, and I haven't read any evidence around this, but you definitely feel it as a track runner when you put spikes on in particular, is how fast your foot comes off the track compared to running on the road or on grass. And how sore your hamstrings get when you've been out of spikes or haven't done fast work for a while. when
Yes.
your foot starts coming off that track so fast. It's a really weird feeling.
Not only that, because the technology has changed in spikes, which I'll show you now, which is this. You see that? See this technology?
Yeah.
This recovers your foot. So before when you walked on your spikes, you actually walk properly. This actually pops your foot up into
Yes.
dorsiflex when you walk. So it feels weird. But when you go to sprint and it tips you there, so that is hitting the track perfectly. And this technology here recovers it. So you don't have to work as hard on
And
every
there's
foot.
so much more cushioning at the front of that spike compared to the other spikes we used to wear, which had just a hard plate, right?
Yeah,
Now
and
there's
the
some
plate
recovery
now,
foam in there.
this plate is
Yeah.
so stiff.
Stiff, yeah.
It's all the way to heel, and it's
Yeah.
really, really stiff, strong plate with recovery. This is why we've been able to produce good times in the last 5 years because of this new technology. So,
Yeah,
which
for sure.
we're also seeing it in not just in sprinting, but in marathon running. You know, with the new shoes they're bringing out, that's why that guy broke the 2-hour marathon
Yeah. Yeah.
because he had that shoe that was recovering his foot.
Yeah, 100%. He was also, he drafted the whole way, and
He had some help, yeah.
he had some help, yeah. But I mean, it was a particular project in the shoe and so forth. Tell me, is that a specific 400-meter shoe, or what's this? Well,
That's 1 to 400. The 800 to 1500, the plate only goes halfway down your arch. But it's the same technology, but the plate doesn't extend as far and it has more heel. So yes, and Adidas.
And what about, is there a pure 100-meter shoe?
Yes.
And what does that look like?
No. That's what the pure 100. If you watch the Paris Olympics, which are about to go, you will see them all lining up in those shoes.
Yes. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Because, well, I've still got a pair of spikes in the cupboard here as well, brand new pair. More what I would call a 400-meter shoe, the old Nike 400-meter, whatever they were called, shoe that I have. And it's still stiff, but it's not as stiff as the 100. And I actually had two separate shoes.
Well, because, 1 through 400 now, they're running that fast. That shoe there doubles for 1 through 4.
Yeah.
And some athletes will wear that in the 8.
Yeah, I can imagine that. The 8, they're running the 8 so fast, right?
Well, they're going through the first 400 sub 50.
Yeah, they did the other day in 48.3 or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The first 5 times over the line, the slowest was 142. The first 2 were 141s.
Yeah.
That's not jogging.
So let's go back to the question and talking about track speed for, a distance runner I would consider new track runner. So they've got running under their belt. They've obviously, they've got running in their legs and so forth, but they want to start increasing their speed. What sort of advice would you give somebody on a track? They've turned up for the first session and they say, I want a 1K through the marathon runner. I want to start doing some track work, but I want to come down. And they're purely just doing it for a little bit of interest because they've been running for some time now and they just want to change things up and do some, not short track work, but they want to actually do some faster runs on the track, like 1500s, maybe 3Ks and so forth. What sort of a session or what would you recommend that somebody does to build their speed up for the track?
It's really interesting that you're asking that question now because there's a group of elite athletes, there's 5 of them that train in Griffith who have approached me just the other day. They just did the half marathon. The fastest in the group did it in 77 minutes.
Yeah, good run.
Oh, he's good. He's 24. He's 6'5", massive stride length,
Wow, 6'5".
Massive capacity to feel pain.
Yeah.
He is an absolute beast. And he said, Chris, I want to increase speed. I want to get quicker at it, but I'm going to come back. I'm going to do some track work. What do I do? What would you recommend? And this is what I've devised. I said, we're going to drop you back. And this is the difference between a sprinter and someone saying they want speed on the track. This is the subtle difference. Because I've got another 20-year-old who is a pure 100-meter sprinter. We do pick up runs and all sorts of. We're challenging different energy systems when I talk about pure speed and speed for, say, a 1500-meter runner and or someone doing half marathon. So what we've done is I'm putting him through a 400-meter progression to build his 1K splits. So what we're attempting to do is run him over 400 meters off short rest, but quicker. He would normally roll around 400 in 80, 85 seconds. I'm pulling those times down to 75 repeats and progressing it. And the whole idea is I start splitting up his 1Ks into 400 meters and doing a little bit of over distance, and then continually increasing his ability to run 400 meter reps off short rests and then put together a 1K split. So I'm building in over a course of, say, 8 weeks of continually being able to tolerate 400 meter speed, which is not sprinting per se, because a 75-second 400 meters is not challenging for a 400 meter run.
Of course.
It would be if you have to do it 10 times off 2 minutes.
Of course. Very.
Now it's challenging.
Yeah.
So that's what he's got to do. He's got to do 10 of them off 2 minutes and at 75 seconds. Now, he'll get 5 or 6 of them out. Then he's going to be under pressure. And what we're trying to do is lift his tolerance level. The energy system I'm looking for is to lift his tolerance level at that speed over 1K. And then we start building from the bottom up instead of like most distance runners build top down. They go out and run at 80, 90, 120 kilometers a week. We build them. We still don't get away from that. We do some of that, but we're building from the bottom end. We build 400, 600, 800 1K speed and put it together that way.
Yeah, I would still say, and as we well know, to build, like if you want to be more comfortable, so you're 400 at 75 seconds, because 75-second 400 for a distance runner is still going to feel fast, right? You know, they're still having to push pretty hard. I don't know what that converts to in a at a kilometer.
1500. It's a 4 minute something 1500.
What does it convert to K pace though? Kilometers.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
75.
I should get a bit better at doing this math in my head. I can't. I've never worked it out. Too new to distance stuff. Most people can pull this straight up.
So it's 18.7500 splits times 10. So 187 seconds. So 180. That's 3 minutes. 3075.
Okay. So yeah. So it's quick. It's getting down there for sure.
Oh, it's fast. So
again, my point is that to be able to run that speed comfortably, like, and I'm talking from a 400 meter runner, we would actually still include, and I'm not saying fast, let's say it's an 800 meter runner, Mike Lynch, perfect example, 800 meter runner coming down, could run a decent 4, but definitely a stronger 8 runner. We would still give Mike 100s and 200s, you know, multiples to increase his speed. You know what I mean? So what I think this question, and if I'm interpreting it correctly from this guy that I got asked a question about, you know, and he's talking about flying 30s, I think complete no-no. But if he wants to build the speed from the very bottom end, you know, and so a 75-second 400 starts to feel very comfortable, you still need to do some potentially 100 work and 200 work, correct?
But here's the trick with that type of runner, and Mike Lynch is a classic example of this, is that we always knew when speed hit a certain point, he would tip over and wouldn't be able to complete the session.
Of course.
So there's and I sort of put it in this category here. You've got your tempo rhythm running, then you move into speed endurance, and then you've just got absolute pure speed. Now, I would lean away from pure speed completely. I wouldn't touch it.
100%.
Go that, as you said, between 60 and 120 meters. And I would be doing them leaning more into speed endurance as opposed to raw speed. And we do ins and outs, pickup runs. We do all roll-ins, nothing off the mark, because that's danger. So like the other day with the girls that I had on the track at Griffith, we're doing 120 meter, what we call pickup runs. So the first 30, they're actually just practicing finding that really nice, comfortable rhythm. And then about 90 meters out, they lift. And they try and lift to good speed, relaxed speed at about 92, 94% and hold it through to the line without stress on the body. But that's still moving. So
here's the problem with that though, isn't it? Like speaking to a distance runner that's coming from 10K up to marathons and saying hold 94% of your track speed, they don't know what 94% is, correct, you know.
Yeah.
there's a CrossFit athlete which I interviewed a while ago, and I told you about John Wynn. He's in the top 7 or 8, top 15 in the world at the moment. I think he came 7th or 8th the recent World Championships. He's gone off and got himself a running coach. I looked at his Instagram profile yesterday. I think one of his first track sessions, he was given 10 200s off short rest. I think he did them he said, in 32 seconds.
That's a good
Not a bad run, with either jog back or walk back recovery. He's got the cardio base, like a easy run day for him is 4:30K pace. That's an easy run. He's not stressed at all. Then he's tried to run 300s and he can hardly walk. He was saying online, because going out to the extra 300, and he, in his own words, he said, I think I made the mistake trying to run the 300 like the 200.
Yep.
Now, again, we go back to a distance runner. They think, oh, it's only an extra 100 meters. It's not that far.
Wow.
Your system behaves very differently when you're trying to run speed and you add an extra 100 meters onto it. We know, because we've done it a lot, even 50 meters. We know how different you've got to run a 200 to a 250 to a 300. A 300 to a 200, a 300 is, yes, you're going out still solid to get up to your speed. Your push off is not as hard as your 200. Your first 3 steps, you're not trying to really snap off the line. You've still got to push out quite hard, but then you're trying to hold that speed and it's probably that 95, 96%. And we're talking about multiples here, for the rest of the run. It's not like push out. And I can imagine now, like anyone trying to run the 300, the aggressiveness in their arms and their whole body, well, they only capitulate probably with 50 to go, and then that's it. There's no other runs left in their legs. So, but it is an art, and we've spoken about this so many times, but I think it's interesting that I like the fact that some of these distance runners are now trying to come and understand the track. And I heard one guy say the other day, and I thought it was the best advice. He said, if you're a distance runner and you want to go and learn about track running, go and get a track coach. Go and get a sprint coach.
Yeah.
And the other thing he said, which I thought was imperative as well, is that go and find somebody, because the best way to learn actually how to run and condition your body for the track is to learn to do drills properly. And I was going to say to this person on Twitter as well, don't worry about your flying 30s. And he was a bit nervous about putting spikes on. Last time he put spikes on, he said he got injured. I said, I wouldn't be going to spikes. I'd be going to more of a stiffer flat, like a racing flat, that will give you that support on the track. But I would be doing lots of drills. They'll recondition your hamstrings. They'll give you the glute strength, the stability, so you're not collapsing. They teach you to keep your hips up high, which sprinters all need to do. We're not collapsing down like a lot of distance runners do. But go and get yourself a couple of lessons with a track coach.
Yeah, and it's and another great example of that, and talking about speed and what that means, is because I went up to Queensland I went up to UQ, the Queensland University, because I've got an athlete coming down from 800 to 400 and didn't understand that speed shift and how to run fast, but in a more relaxed state over 400 as versus what she does in the 8. And I had to literally run beside her, because I said, show me what you're doing. And she showed me, and I went, no, you can't run a 400 like that. You're going to gas out. You can't, the speed is all wrong. And I ran beside her, and I just said, just mimic me. I said, you're going to feel speed changes, but just mimic me, and you're going to really notice the change in your physiology and what that feels like.
Yeah.
And she's a smart woman. No, she's intelligent. And she got it straight away. As soon as she ran beside me and she felt me shift, she went, so it's supposed to feel like that.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to feel. And she went, got it. I just didn't know what that meant. But the point I'm making is that when it comes to track, it's way more nuanced than what people know, particularly, one, if you haven't done it for a long time, or two, if you've never done it, but you're quite an elite, say, distance runner, and then you want to go onto the track. They have no concept of what it feels like to be, to touch your neural system and to tick.
No.
They don't know what it feels like and what it means and what to do when they feel it. They don't know what to do. Like, a lot of people will think, I'm fatiguing, I need to push harder, and you're just going to go slower. And you'll probably overstride and lope, and everything will be wrong.
You only have to look at, if you go and watch, just any sort of major track event, and even I understand they're elite athletes, and we're not talking about elite athletes here. but you go and watch the current 100 and 200 meter track runners, and then directly after that event, watch their body language and their mechanics and, you know, everything about how they run, then watch an 800 meter runner run.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so different, you know.
Right.
But I understand it's very difficult for people to understand that concept, and the speed element is really difficult for people. And you know, there's countless times at the track where we had middle distance runners jump in with us, and you know, we always knew, oh yeah, I can do 6 200s, you know. And we're like, really? You can run 6 200s? Oh yeah, I jog back and do 6 200s. And you know,
Awesome.
then we watch them, you know, the first 10 meters out of the 200 meter mark, they're 3 staggers behind because they have zero power to get off the line or don't know how to recruit that power, right?
And they
Um,
never, ever tap their neural system.
no,
They never go there. So they never
no.
feel neural.
Well, they don't know how to recruit it, I would argue, Chris. You
Yeah,
know, they
probably.
they haven't actually learnt how to recruit that correctly. It was, remember how interesting it was trying to teach Mike Lynch block starts.
Yeah, it's just wasting time.
He just couldn't come out of a set of blocks. Although Mike has quite a
Plenty of
substantial
power.
bit of power.
He's
He
strong.
had quite good plyometric power in the gym. Incredible, you know, for people that obviously don't know us, Mike ran virtually a 2 minute flat 800, I think, at 44 or 45 or something, you know, second or third fastest time in the world that year. Extremely good runner. But watching him trying to start out of a, you know, a set of blocks, he was like a baby calf, you know, he
Yeah,
just was,
yeah,
it was
yeah,
all over the place and zero power out of those blocks because
yeah.
he never learned how to recruit that power and really and utilize that power through the track and through the ground.
And
It's
never
a very
will,
different
mind
skill.
you. And
No,
never will. No.
it's a
And
difficult thing. So going back to the point, I think, you know, I would shut down or definitely not be recommending anyone do flying 30s if you're getting back into some track running.
oh
I
no.
do think a progressive 60 meter run to get the feel of what it's like to run fast. And we know that mechanically you're probably not going to break down at 60 meters. You can kind of hold that together. And I think lots of things start to happen after 60 for a lot of people when it comes to sprinting. Sprinting's a very much there's a lot going on when you're running at that speed. You're thinking about a lot, even though, you know, for the best sprinters in the world, it's sub 10 seconds, but lots is going through your mind, right? You're making these micro adjustments all the time. And I think it's so easy to lapse concentration potentially after 60 meters. I think for a lot of people, running a 60 with a progressive running and then building up to speed, you get to think about in space, I would like to term it, where your body's at, where your arms are at, where your face is at. And you shouldn't have a huge amount of tension in your body. Let's just go back a step. Warm up. Talk me through your warm ups at the moment and what your athletes do prior to starting their training.
Well, warm ups, and up here in Queensland, and obviously it varies depending on the season. Like in summertime, our warm ups are certainly much shorter than they are in winter. And then we would have warm ups for particular sessions versus warm ups for competition. They're very different as well. But if well, like the other day when I had some athletes and I said, listen, you've got to do some fast work today, so do a competition warm up. Like I really want, and it's winter. You're going to spend 40 minutes now really warming up your hamstrings, calves, Achilles, because you're going to be doing some quicker work. So, and that warm up consists of uh, um, probably up to 8 separate drills,
Mm-hmm.
including also a lot of dynamic stuff on the fence and some opening up our hips and even some very, very mild plyometric work to get your body ready to sprint.
Talk me through the order of the warm up though. What do you guys start with? What's the first thing you do?
Well, I'm letting these guys get away with one thing at the beginning of their warm up because they like to do it and it's part of their social interaction. I don't do it. They like to go for a bit of a jog around, you know, for one lap to start. And I'm just like, fucking go. Get all the shit you want to talk about out now because you won't be talking later. So they go for a jog around, they do a warm up. Then I take them basically straight into their drills from that. There's no more running. They go straight to drills. They'll go through A, B, C skip. I'll get them to do what we call their double. They do double A's. They do triple A's. They'll then go into some their lunges. and twists and very, very light, a bit light bounding. And then I'll stick them on the fence, and then I'll stick them for run throughs in their warm up shoes, no spike yet. They'll get out some 50-meter progressions, usually 3 to 4 in their like sand shoes at about 75, 80, 85%. Then we're in spikes. Then we get through some run throughs. We progress again around 85, 90, 95% over 50 meters over about 3 to 4 runs. And then we'll, if they're warm and they're feeling good, we'll start the session.
Yeah. So a lot of people potentially listening won't know what some of those drills are. I
Yes.
presume in there you do butt kicks as well, or
Yeah,
kickbacks, or whatever you want to call them.
Yes, I just call it leg recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, butt kick, same thing. Our double skip, which is our double, like when you do an A skip, it's what A skip looks like. With
Yeah.
A skip, you just double tap the other leg now, and
Yep,
so
yep.
the other leg stays high for longer.
Yep.
And we do some stability work with our triple legs and just a few, and then we do single leg A's as well, where you're just doing that single leg A where they're
Mhm.
and then they change the left and they're trying to balance them. We'll put some bands out occasionally and put them against the fence and get them to do leg rotations with bands. It just depends on the session.
Yep,
If you're
sure.
doing some longer work, endurance work, say out to say between 150 up to 300s, particularly with the 800-meter group, they do not need as much dynamic work. They don't. Especially if they're running at slower speeds on shorter rests, if it's base work. Like the other night when I had them done 6 300s for our 8 group off reducing rest, and it was solid, but it wasn't speed. But they were just, because of the rest reducing, they're just going to fatigue, So
Yeah.
by the time they're fatiguing in the back end of it, they're warm.
Yeah.
They've already
So
done 12, 1500.
just to recap that, yeah, and that's the thing that, a sprint warm-up is, particularly if you're getting rid of competition, it's pretty aggressive. And I don't think a lot of
It
people
is.
underestimate how aggressive a sprint warm-up really is. And I think the problem that, we used to identify with a lot of athletes and used to frustrate the hell out of me when I coached was that a lot of people would use their first 2 or 3 runs of our actual session as continuation of their warm-up.
Correct.
And it used to piss me off to no end. It's like, this first fucking run is not a warm-up, you should be ready to go on this first run. I get it that sometimes it was a little bit off our first time. I would often say, let me just get the time right after this first run, then we'll readjust. Let's just see. You want to see how everyone feels. I don't want everyone to run, if we've got a range of, 12, 5 to 13 seconds for hundreds. We don't want everyone to be the bottom of the range the first run. I get that. But just to recap, I mean, Chris just said that they're running lap of the track. A lot of sprinters, when I grew up, we always used to go to our, walk, run lap for our first lap. Personally, I hated it. And then,
I don't do it.
no, but obviously if you've got a bunch of guys that have been doing their entire life, it doesn't hurt, but it's just not something that a lot of sprint squads will do. Typically, going back to our training days, we would do some just run-throughs on the grass first in our flats. It's probably over somewhere between 60 and 80 meters just to start turning your legs over. You've been sitting at work all day, sitting in the car on the way to the track. That's to get you going. Again, we'd all have a bit of a conversation and, as you said, get the crap out before training starts. We then go into our drills. You can choose whatever drills you enjoy the most. If you've got some deficiencies and a good coach, they'll use drills that will actually help you with those deficiencies. And drills do teach you a lot. I mean, any good sprinter's actually done drills for a very long time and learned them very well. After our drills, we would then go into some dynamic stretching. Sprinters don't do any passive stretching. They don't sit down on the ground and actually stretch their hamstrings. It's normally a lot of leg swings, dynamic, range stuff, get your hips moving, get your sort of glutes activated and so forth. Then typically we would put our spikes on, and then we would do, as Chris was saying before, some guys would go on the track, others would go back onto the grass. And then you do some progressive runs between 30 meters leading out up to 60 meters, and each one of those would get slightly faster and faster. So your last one, you're probably hitting around 50 or 60 meters at a decent speed. And then you would typically say, again, going back to the session, if it's a high speed session, you would probably put a bit more emphasis on that dynamic warm up in your track spikes. If it's going to be a 300 or 400 meter session, we would probably let those out a bit longer. You and I would probably run to 80 meters, in our spikes. And then we'd walk back, walk around to the start line if it's 300, and we'd be ready to go. So, and I think that's, and that forms like quite a not only strategic part of the workout, it's a big part of the workout. It's your body gets up to speed. You've done some mechanical stuff. You've also done some aggressive running. And I think any distance runner, if they just went through that regimen of a sprinter warming up, they would get a really good feel for speed. They would start to understand what that progression feels like, with the speed. So,
yeah,
but
so
yeah, it's very different for these guys, and it's interesting. Just lots of people wanting to know more about it. But I kind of agree. What I read the other day, someone recommending that they get a track coach. And it's probably hard to teach online. I get it. It'd be nice if someone could go to a local track and grab a coach, and it's probably not ideal for everybody if they don't have a local track where they can go somewhere. But yeah, definitely interesting.
yeah,
Well, I wanted to talk about tapering as well, but we've kind of gone on longer than I thought about speed for distance athletes, which I think is good, though. I think it's actually a good topic, and hopefully people get a bit out of it. But, well, we'll keep tapering for next time, because I think everyone gets tapering wrong. I reckon too many athletes.
Oh, hard.
It is hard. And I understand that, and it'll be a great conversation to get into with you, because you've done a lot more tapering than me over the last few years. But I'm going back to some of these endurance guys and even the high rocks guys, and I think they're overtraining in their taper. And I really believe they're carrying too much fatigue into their competition.
Yeah. And to give you a great example of that, and a great coach, I wish I could remember the name of the guy that said it. He said, this is one of his hard and fast rules. You are 100% always better off taking an athlete slightly underdone into a meet than overdone. He said, because you can't get it much more right 1 to 2 weeks leading into a meet, but you can really get it wrong.
Yeah, we've done that before.
I know, and I've done it too, and we know plenty of examples where we've seen it happen. And Noah Lyles did it at a championship and ran a bronze, and then came back a week later and ran faster to win the gold at a meet back in the States. So
Yeah.
he got it wrong. But the thing is, as his coach said, if you're slightly underdone going into a meet, particularly a big meet where you've got to go through rounds, the rounds will bring you on.
100%. I was going to say that if you're doing any sort of event where you've got rounds, that's going to bring you on. As a track runner, 100%. It's a big difference for a distance runner and some of these high rocks guys, which I've been involved with more recently. They've just got the one event, and that's why I think they're overtraining coming into it. They're still carrying too much fatigue into these races, and everyone's got the same mindset. We've all done it. Have I done enough? I just want to get that last little hard session out.
Yeah.
We've all done that.
And more with sprinting, more does not equal more. It doesn't. It's the reverse. Actually, more equals less.
Yeah.
You will actually, because neural fatigue, it can take you days and days to recover from neural fatigue.
So 100%.
You really need to, as this coach said over the States, it's so much better to go in underdone than overdone, because, as you say, you can't. If 2 weeks before an event, you're done and dusted. You can't get much fitter or faster. You can maybe just fine tune a couple of things, but you're done. But geez, you can get it so wrong if you grow a brain and go out and think I'm going to run my guts out for the next 2 weeks by the meet. You screw yourself. You'll just fatigue.
All right, let's leave it there. We'll keep our taper conversation for next week. I think that's good. I like having these discussions around topics, and hopefully some of these distance runners get a little bit out of our speed or track speed for distance guys. So,
all right, mate. How I go with this progression with these 5 runners, because they're quite elite runners.
That'll be good to chat about. That'll be just a good thing to, 100%. Over the next few weeks, get on and report back on how you're going with those guys. Be interested to get the feedback.
It's going to be a complete experiment with an effort to drop their 1K times, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, awesome. All right, that's it. Pod done. Bye for now.